Live from the BDN Studios, it's Bang and Dang.
That's awesome.
If you don't like that, then
You ain't black.
There we go, Outlaws, Gunslingers, once again. Second Tuesday of the month, which means we're on to some more Bandidos.
Oh.
Well, technically, it's a Bandito Hell's Angel crossover episode. Talking about the Nordic Biker War. We spoke a little bit about it last month's episode about crimes around the world. And so you guys know, this is in Scandinavia and Finland, so there's going to be a lot of stuff that is going to be hard to pronounce for us. If you're not looking for people who pronounce things wrong, then we're not your guys. Then, well, we are your guys. If you're not looking for that, if you are looking for that, we're your guys. Don't worry.
Right.
Yeah, this war, began in 1994 and continued all the way up until 1997 against the Hells Angels and Bandidos. It's also known as the Great Nordic Biker War or the Second Biker War. We'll talk a little bit about the First Biker War, and which is the Copenhagen Biker War, which took place between 83 and 85. There's a lot of shit. This one's gonna be a long one, guys. There's a lot of stuff that went on in this damn war.
Oh, man.
When people think of outlaw biker culture, their minds usually go straight to America. Harleys, roaring across desert highways, leather-clad riders with skull patches. But one of the most intense and deeply rooted outlaw biker scenes didn't grow out of California or Texas or Chicago or Florida. It came from Scandinavia. It all started right there in old Sweden. By the late 60s and early 70s, motorcycle clubs, they were popping up all over the country. These early groups took a lot of inspiration from the British rocker subculture. They had leather jackets, rebellious image, bikes, and that sense of living outside the rules.
Right. A few years later, 70s, same thing started happening in Denmark. Motorcycle groups began forming there as well, building off the same rocker influence. Something changed, though, around 1980. Danish clubs started looking west toward the United States. They began adopting not just the American style, but the American identity, calling themselves bikers instead of rockers. Funny thing is, the term rocker never really went away in Denmark. Even today, the police and the media still use that word when they talk about the outlaw biker scene.
Bunch of rockers.
Bunch of rockers today got arrested.
In Denmark, the scene wasn't small at all. For its population size, Denmark actually had more outlaw bikers than anywhere else in Europe, possibly even in the world. Oh, I doubt that.
All right.
Commander Troels Ording Jorgensen of the Danish police, he put it best when he spoke to Canadian journalists Julian Schur and William Marsden. He said, "No one has ever done a sociological investigation as to why, in this small, extremely peaceful country of Denmark, we have so many chapters of damn outlaw motorcycle gangs.
Right, isn't that crazy?
They're very much hardliners, fierce, violent. We're the country of Hans Christian Andersen, for G's sakes.
Right.
We should not create crooks like this."
Oh. As the biker world grew in Sweden and Denmark, tensions started rising. Violence began breaking out between clubs. Authorities took notice.
Authorities.
Soon, biker wars erupting all across Scandinavia. By the late 1880s, 100 years later, 1980s, outlaw motorcycle clubs.
Yeah. I didn't know Scandinavia was that advanced in technology. They already had motorcycles in 1880.
Right. By the late 1980s, outlaw motorcycle clubs had spread north into Finland. At first, there wasn't much of a line between club-affiliated bikers and regular motorcycle enthusiasts. It was all kind of mixed together.
Of course.
And for a while, Finland, was quiet. The country didn't see serious biker violence until the early 90s. Violence was all around the world at that time.
Right. But across the old Nordic countries, they were changing and changing fast. During the 80s and 90s, motorcycle clubs became more and more involved in organized crime, and intergang violence exploded.
For what reason? Like, they couldn't just have a motorcycle club without getting into drugs and human trafficking. It just don't make no sense.
Yeah, well, and then that's what happens when you do that and you establish territories and other people want to move in on your territories.
True.
Well, around this time is when the big international names arrived. It's the ones everybody's heard of. It's the ones we're going to be talking about today. Before them, most biker gangs in the region, they were local, obviously. Single chapters with local leadership. But as the wars heated up, many of these smaller clubs, they sought protection by joining the larger, more powerful organizations. And this began as what we know as patching over, mainly into the Angels and the Bandidos. And you know the Angels and Bandidos already don't get along, so...
Angels came first, arrived in 1980, gradually took control of the Scandinavian biker scene. Not everyone wanted to fall in line, though. By 1993, a collection of smaller clubs decided to push back. They started forming Bandidos chapters as a counterweight to the Angels' dominance. It's really pushing back, guys. Now, the very first Angels chapter in Scandinavia, well, guess what? It was founded in Denmark on the 30th of December, 1980. It started when Unionen MC.
Unionen. Oh.
This is a Copenhagen-based club that was actually a union of 4 smaller local clubs formed in 1977.
Hence the name, huh?
And they were officially patched over to the Angels.
Not long after that, a rival club appeared. It was called the Bullshit Motorcycle Club. We've heard of these guys. They were a merger of 2 local groups who wanted to resist the Angels' growing power. Bullshit MC, they set up shop in Copenhagen's Christiania neighborhood. And they quickly took control of the area's hashish trade.
Oh, got in the hash, huh?
And as you would guess, the move didn't sit well with the Angels, and it didn't take long before the 2 sides went to war. This conflict became known as the First Biker War, or sometimes the Copenhagen Biker War. Like we said, it raged from September of 83 to December of 85. 2 years. Jeez, what is this, fucking Israel?
Wow. By the time it ended, 8 bullshit members, including 3 of their presidents,
Damn.
dead. 1 Angels member, dead, along with 2 innocent bystanders. And that wasn't all. During that very war, bullshit members were all suspected in the murders of 2 non-bikers. In 1986, the Popo searched the old bullshit clubhouse. They found a corpse buried beneath the floor.
Oh.
The first biker war was brutal, but also very contained. It was limited to Copenhagen.
Hence the Copenhagen Biker War.
Unlike the larger conflict that we were about to talk about. Still, the death toll in Copenhagen alone equaled or even exceeded what would come in the next war.
The difference between these wars, though, the first one actually had a clear winner. Hell's Angels, they came out on top and no peace treaty was needed. Bullshit MC members were younger, less organized, and outmatched. By 1988, they were gone, disbanded for good.
Damn right.
After the chaos of the first war, the Angels, they weren't slowing down. Why would they?
Nope.
They kept growing and spreading beyond Denmark's borders. August 1st, 1992, the Angels officially expanded into Norway.
Ooh.
The Norsemen.
Uh-oh.
Their new chapter opened in Trondheim after a patchover of a local biker gang called the Rowdies.
Oh.
Now, this wasn't just an overnight move, though. The Rowdies, they'd spent nearly 10 years as an Angel support club before earning their full membership. And the timing, a little bit controversial. Just 2 weeks before their official patchover, the Rowdies had carried out a brutal knife and chain attack on a rival gang. This was an ambush that left several of the other club's members hospitalized.
Meanwhile, across the border in Sweden, biker scene heating up as well. 27th February 1993, a Malmo-based group called the Dirty Draggles became Sweden's first official Angels chapter. They didn't just get invited in, they fought their way in. Backed by the Danish Angels, the Dirty Draggles took out 2 competing local clubs to earn their way to wear those famous colors. While the Angels were growing in Sweden and Norway, things were shifting in Finland. 1992, Helsinki. The gang there, called Overkill, became Angels' hang-around club through their connection with the Angels in Denmark.
And as you would think, that title didn't come easy. Overkill, they had to prove themselves.
Obviously.
They ended up in a nasty struggle with another Finnish biker group known as the Iron Hog MC.
Fucking yeah.
The 2 clubs clashed, and they clashed hard.
Oh.
Each trying to win the Hells Angels' affection.
Damn right.
February 9th, 93, the rivalry came to a violent head.
A heed, right?
A heed. Right? Is it a heed? Violent heed, right?
I think so.
Overkill members, they ambushed several Iron Hog bikers, including their president. And this was at a restaurant in Jarvenpa with 2 dots over each A, and left him badly beaten. After that, Iron Hog backed off and withdrew.
I bet they did.
The next day, one Overkill member, Rico Roimu, he went on Finnish television and said proudly, "We are an official Hells Angels hang-around club, and I'm fucking proud of it."
Oh, you probably shouldn't go on TV and
That's
say
Sweden,
that.
they probably are allowed to swear.
Right. That statement caught attention, especially from the police.
I would assume so.
3rd of March, 1993, Finnish authorities launched a dramatic raid on Overkill's headquarters in the Tapaluka Pukapikipunki. in the Tapulika Punki neighborhood of
What's
Helsinki.
What is that Christmas song? Beep-a-doo-pop-beep-a-bop-o, beep-a-boo, right?
Yep. They rolled in using a Patria Pazzi armored personnel carrier and even brought in a Super Puma helicopter.
Damn.
5 people arrested in the raid.
Oh, wow. All that for 5 people.
Now, the Angels were busy tightening their grip across Scandinavia. Another powerful club was making its own move in Europe. Guess who that was? Nope, not the Outsiders. I mean, the Outlaws. It was the Bandidos. Mm-hmm. Bandidos' European story started a few years earlier. September 20th, 1989, to open the first continental chapter in Marseille, France. But by the early 90s, tensions between the French Bandidos and the French Angels got violent.
Things got so bad that leaders from both clubs in the United States, they had to step in. Mm. The late summer of 93, executives from the American Hells Angels and the Bandidos, they met in Paris and signed a non-aggression pact.
Okay.
It was simple. Keep the peace so that governments and police wouldn't crack down hard and block either club's expansion.
All right.
But that peace didn't last long in Scandinavia.
Sure in hell didn't.
Up there in Denmark, a club called the Undertakers MC, they were already on the verge of switching sides.
Damn right.
They were based in North Zealand and had once been friendly with the Angels, but over time that relationship soured. By 92, the Undertakers were reaching out to the Bandidos leadership in the U.S. and France, asking to join their ranks. They were accepted as probies,
Right.
and after some time as prospects, they officially patched over December 17, 93. That didn't take long. They became Denmark's first Bandidos chapter. And here's where it's going to start.
Well, first the Angels actually approved this move under one big condition. New Bandidos could only operate 2 chapters. One in Stenlos, another in Horsholm. But that agreement, as we all know, didn't hold. According to the Danish police official, Christian Moller, the trouble came from one man and one man only. Bandidos leader, Jim Tindon. Moller, he told journalists Julian Scherer and William Marsden, as far as we know, the Bandidos promised not to expand further. But they did, as we all know.
Oh, boy, did they.
Wow.
The Danish Bandidos quickly started pulling in new members, including ex-members of the old bullshit MC, and even some former Hells Angels who had been either expelled or left over disagreements about how the club was being run. One Angels member later complained about Tindon's recruiting, saying he filled his club with this dirt. Tindon recruited all that garbage, and such a sick mixture produces more sick things.
Fuck.
And this conflict wasn't just a brewing in Denmark. Across the Öresund Strait in southern Sweden, another fight was about to take shape.
Yeah, because there's a club called Morbids MC, based in Heisenberg.
Or Helsingborg.
Yep. Had a long history of bad blood with another Swedish club called the Rebels. Angels saw an opportunity, and they jumped. They offered the Morbids full membership, but only if they agreed to merge with the Rebs. The Morbids says, no, they refuse.
Why would they?
Instead, they reached out to the Danish Bandidos for support. Like, can you believe these fuckers?
They want us to merge with a club we've been killing?
Tindon and the Bandidos weren't about to play by the Angels' rules no more. They said, screw that shit. They ignored all the proper protocol about recruitment and development. January 22nd, 1994, Morbids became an official probationary Bandidos chapter. A move that directly defied the Angels' dominance in Scandinavia. Uh-oh, they pissed.
By the time this biker war kicked off, 94, the playing field was still relatively small, but it was about to grow and grow fast.
Oh.
Back then, Denmark, they had just two official Bandidos chapters. Sweden, they had one Hells Angels chapter.
Oh, wow.
That was it. Beyond those big names, the landscape was crowded, though. Across both countries, there were about 15 independent motorcycle gangs operating.
Dang.
And most of them, they leaned towards the Hells Angels side.
Okay.
Not good for the Bandidos.
No. Recruitment pool, you ask? It's massive across Scandinavia. There are more than 1,000 outlaw bikers who could potentially be pulled into one side or another. Within just a few years, those numbers exploded because by 1997, the Bandidos' footprint in Nordic countries had grown to 130 members, spread across at least 7 chapters. The Angels, they doubled and then some, 290 members across 15 chapters. Breaking it down, 85 members, Sweden, 110 members, Denmark, 70 members, Norway, 25 members, Finland. Denmark, though, was real hot. At that point, it had the highest concentration of motorcycle gangs in all of Europe, maybe even the world. And to this day, neither the police nor sociologists have ever been able to explain why people like bikes. As the war dragged on between 94 and 97, things took a dark and dangerous turn. It wasn't about fistfights or bar brawls anymore. It was about firepower. During that period, there was at least 36 break-ins at Swedish Army and Danish Home Guard facilities. Oh,
Wow.
wow, that's a shitty army. That's terrible. The scale of what was stolen sounds like something out of a military thriller.
From those raids came at least 16 Bofors anti-tank rockets,
Dang.
10 machine guns, around 300 handguns, 67 fully automatic rifles, 205 other rifles of various calibers, hundreds of hand grenades and landmines, and about 7 kilograms of explosives, complete with detonators.
Oh, my.
Police later said they believe most of these thefts could be traced back to the Bandidos or their support clubs.
Oh.
In response, the Danish and Swedish militaries they were forced to seriously tighten up security. I would hope.
Duh. Holy shit.
By then, though, it didn't matter. They were already on the street. The weapons were.
Oh, my.
And it wasn't just the Bandidos who were arming up. The Angels, they managed to get their hands on some heavy weaponry, too. Rocket launchers, machine guns from Russia.
I was just going to say Russian.
And the former Yugoslavia, which is all part of the flood of surplus arms coming out of the old Eastern Bloc. Mm-hmm. These weren't just for show, obviously. Over the course of the conflict, the Swedish-made AT-4 anti-tank weapon was fired 8 separate times.
Dang.
The Russian RPG-22, 3 times.
Oh.
Hand grenades used 4 times. There was even a booby trap set once.
Oh, nice. I like booby traps. The bikers also used car bombs, as usual, on 3 occasions. Other types of explosives 3 more times, ranging anywhere between 1 and 5 kilograms a piece. Top of that, there were more than 20 drive-by shootings there in the war. There was no longer a street-level feud. It was open warfare, fought with military-grade weapons in some of the most peaceful countries on Earth. The violence started almost immediately. Just days after the Morbids in Helsingborg officially became a probationary bandido, on the 22nd of January 1994, shootings began. Members of the Angels Prospect Club, the rebels, rolled up and sprayed the Morbids clubhouse with gunfire. It was the first major attack of the war, and from here on out, destruction.
And not long after that, the rebels themselves became a full Hells Angels chapter in the nearby town of Haslarp.
Ooh.
Their base was set up on a rural campground less than 2 miles from the Morbids headquarters. Oh, geez.
Oh, man.
Their headquarters have been converted from an old dairy farm.
Oh, that's nice. Still got the cows?
Maybe. The old 2 rival clubs, they could practically see each other from across the fields.
Oh, fuck yeah, dude. That's great.
And just a few days later, the tension escalated again. January 26, 94, Thomas Moeller, president of the Malmo Hells Angels chapter, he fired a high-caliber submachine gun from the roof of a van directly at the Morbids clubhouse.
Holy shit.
One member was hit, losing a finger in the attacks.
A few weeks later, violence turned deadly as it usually does. Because on 13th February 1994, 15 Danish Bandido members ambushed by the Angels Associates inside of a nightclub in Helsingborg. 13 shots fired into the chaos. When it was over, Joachim Bowman, a member of the Hells Angels support club Rednecks MC, dead. 3 others wounded. Among them, Angels hang around Johnny Larson and 1 Bandido member. Don't know who that guy is. Bowman's murder has been solved.
Never. Okay, I mean, I guess.
Wow. And guess what? What do you think happened after that? Well, the Morbids, they said, you know what? We're not going to wait very long to strike back.
They sure didn't. Just February 21st, a week later.
That's a long time.
They retaliated by launching a Carl Gustaf 8.4 centimeter recoilless rifle at the Rebels clubhouse.
Ooh, dude, that's some bullets there.
The blast tore through the compound's garage and even damaged the swimming pool.
Oh, not the swimming pool, guys. Come on.
Somehow no one was hurt, though.
Reckless.
After that, things escalated beyond biker clubs. Armories belonged to the Swedish. We said they got hit. Break-ins over there. They were happening one after another.
Oh, my.
Authorities believe bikers were behind them. No shit. And in countries like Sweden and Denmark, where military service is mandatory for most men, every attacker knew exactly what they were looking for and exactly how to use them.
Wow.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Wow. First major theft took place the night of the 20th of February, 1994, when the Bandidos broke into a Swedish armory. 16 shoulder launch anti-tank rockets gone, along with hundreds of hand grenades, pistols, rifles, and crates of ammo. Missing from the old inventory of the Swedish armory never to be seen from again. Maybe. The violence, it was not going unnoticed abroad. People were talking. United States, for example, the Angels leadership was getting nervous. They didn't like what they were seeing. They're like, Scandinavia is a mess. The Bandidos were expanding fast. And the Angels, they wanted to keep the European territories intact. So, at that time, they didn't want a full-scale war. Not with the kind of legal and international attention that would bring.
Right, you guys are using military weapons and shit, bud.
Idiots. The Angels' mother chapter in Oakland called the Malmo president, Thomas Moeller, for a meeting. There, the club's legendary leader, Sonny Barger, made the situation clear. Yes, the Paris Pact of 1993 had marked Sweden as Angels' territory, but that agreement was supposed to be one of non-aggression. Yeah, right. The Oakland chapter then met directly with senior Bandidos members in Houston to reaffirm their claim to Sweden. Problem was, though, American Bandidos, they're like,
What do you want me to do for here?
I can tell them stop, but that's where my authority ends.
Right.
Really. Until they get back here and I slice their fucking heads
Well,
off.
they'll never be back there
Right.
or go there, period. Well, the European president, Jim Tindon, he wasn't backing down.
No.
He kept supporting the Morbids' retaliation efforts against the Angels. At one point, a delegation of Bandidos from Texas flew to Scandinavia to try and smooth things over.
I bet.
They met with the Angels in Malmo and Copenhagen, hoping diplomacy might work.
Well.
It didn't. That spring, a wave of shootings hit Helsingborg almost daily. It quickly became clear that each side was fighting differently. The Bandidos, they were attacking wildly, indiscriminately. The Angels, on the other hand, were more precise, targeting rival leadership and planning their strikes carefully.
They're the Angels for a reason.
No.
Right? The violence,
Hell.
right? The violence just wasn't limited to Sweden and Denmark. Finland got a little taste of it. Things were shifting fast over there. Right before the Helsinki Club Overkill MC became a prospective Angels chapter on the 19th of February 1994, one of its members, Marco Hirschma, beaten at the Angels party in Sweden while working as a bartender. No one knows why it happened. Hirschma quit Overkill and said, screw that shit, and went on to start a new club of his own. As we all know, the Undertaker's MC. He did that in Vanta that August.
Vanta.
Vanta.
By that point, violence getting out of control. One Helsingborg police officer summed it up simply by saying there were shootings almost every day. Then came another killing.
Oh, shit.
June 22nd, 1994, Juha Nuusiainen, president of the Barley MC, who was a support club of the Angels in Kelikoski, he shot and killed Kerry Korpi, who was the president of Clan MC outside a restaurant in Järvenpää. Well, he was convicted of manslaughter and sentenced to 9 years in prison.
Wow.
September 22nd, 1994. We already know these guys don't have very good sentences.
Right, that's crazy.
At the time, it seemed like an isolated shooting, but looking back, many now see it as part of the larger biker war.
Yep.
Especially some sources say the Clan MC, they were affiliated with the Bandidos.
Well, you never know. Meanwhile, new alliances were forming everywhere. June 1994, two clubs in Oslo, Customizers MC and Rabies MC, became hang-around clubs for the Angels and the Bandidos, respectively. The fight didn't stop there. 11th November 1994, Morbridge member shot in his car in central Helsingborg. 2 days later, brawl broke out between Angels and Bandidos supporters at a nightclub. Later on that month, a Morbridge member killed a fellow inmate inside Helsingborg prison, reportedly because he's been informing to the police. Oh.
And then December 6th and 7th, authorities discovered car bombs attached to vehicles belonging to two Rebels members.
How?
Right. The following month, January 8, 95, a bizarre shootout erupted on a road outside Katarp.
Oh, my.
Members of both the Rebels and the Morbids happened to be at the same time. They happened to arrive at the same time to help a woman whose car had broken down.
Oh, that's fucked up.
Words were exchanged, guns drawn, and shots were fired from moving cars.
Wow.
Just a few weeks later, January 28th, the Morbids' probationary period ended, and they're officially a Bandido club.
Okay, it works out.
But violence didn't let up still. February 5th, a Rebels member was attacked by two men armed with iron pipes and while they were eating at a restaurant in Helsingborg with his girlfriend.
Oh.
Just a few days after that, February 9th, the Undertakers, they were officially recognized as a hang-around club for the Bandidos.
Early 95, the Biker War spread all the way across Scandinavia like wildfire. started in Helsingborg was now exploding into neighboring cities and countries. February 19th, 1995, violence arrived in Oslo, which is in Norway. That day, members of the Customizers MC aligned with the Angels, opened fire on bikers from the Rabies MC as they drove through the city in a car. I guess. One man hit, wounded. Months later, both clubs would move up the ladder. Customizers began an official Angels Prospect chapter, while Rabies earned probationary Bandido status in October of that very same year.
Mm-hmm. But Oslo wasn't the only battleground. The conflict was spreading fast.
Like wildfire.
April 1st, 95, the vice president of Cannonball MC, who was an Angel support club in Helsinki, he was shot and wounded by a member of the Undertakers at a restaurant.
Jeez.
The Undertakers, they were growing in influence and loyalty to the Bandidos.
Sure now were.
And that loyalty would soon pull Finland even deeper into the chaos. By June of 95, Bandidos European leader Jim Tindon, he made a move, transferring the club's northern chapter in Denmark to Helsingborg, Sweden.
Oh, shit.
Where the action was heating up. Then, tragedy struck the Bandidos leadership.
Uh-oh. Wow, that's because 17th of July, 1995, Michael Ljunggren, or Lundgren, they call him Joe, president of the Bandidos in Sweden. He's riding his motorcycle along E4 highway just south of Markyard in Småland. He was returning from a meeting with the Undertakers in Helsinki. He was ambushed and shot dead with a submachine gun, likely a Carl Gustaf M45.
Jeez.
The gunfire echoed across the countryside. Michael's body found along the roadside. His murder never been solved. A cold case to this day.
A cold case in a cold country.
Not long after Choppers MC in Stockholm, they suddenly gained prospect status with the Angels. That timing led investigators and insiders. They're like, They're wondering, did the Choppers carry out the hit on Michael Ljunggren? Lundgren? Probably Lundgren, right?
Sure.
Acting under orders of the Angels, they ask? If so, the Bandidos they weren't about to let it slide.
And they did not, because in July they struck back. 25th, two Undertakers members in Helsinki fired a rocket-propelled grenade stolen from the armory straight into the Overkill clubhouse in northern Helsinki. The rocket blasted through the building's wall, but it didn't explode.
Oh, shit.
Almost exactly 1 week later, July 31st,
It exploded.
a nearly identical RPG attack was carried out in Sweden, this time by the Helsingborg Bandidos against the Rebels headquarters in Haslarp. Once again, nobody injured, but the message was loud and clear. Look what we got, fuckers.
We're going to send these big metal pieces through your wall. One of them may explode.
Fix that hole.
A Danish police officer named Dan Linge, who had secretly infiltrated the Bandidos, later revealed that he conducted surveillance on the Rebels compound with a Swedish Bandido prospect just a couple days before the attack. These weren't random acts of revenge anymore, he said. They were coordinated military-style strikes. Got like a little militia, huh?
Right.
By August 19, 1995, Undertakers were officially upgraded. Bandidos Prospect chapter. Moving into a new clubhouse in the Kamppi district of Helsinki. Look at that, get themselves a new clubhouse.
Right. That same month, Marco Heersma and two fellow Undertakers, they attacked and stripped the colors from the former president of the Overkill. Oh.
Well,
The violence spilled over again a few weeks later. September 27th, Heersma and another Undertakers member, they were attacked outside a courthouse in Pasila, Helsinki, and that was by bikers from the Cannonball and Overkill.
wow.
Ironically, the two had been there to attend the trial of Kai Tapio Blom and Antti Tauno Tapani, two fellow Undertakers charged in the earlier RPG attack to the Overkill clubhouse.
Wow. Wow. Reprisals came quickly. 11th of October, 4 men armed with baseball bats stormed and destroyed an Overkill's own tattoo parlor. This happened in Punavori, a Punavora neighborhood of Helsinki. Later on that month, Blom and Tapani convicted, sentenced to 6 years and 4.5 years, respectively, in prison. But while Finland burned, new players entering the war from Norway. 26th October, 1995. Thor Holm Hansen, they call him Hanky, a well-known Norwegian biker. Wanna get high?
Mr. Hanky?
Founded a new club in Oslo. a prospective Outlaws MC chapter. By the end of the year, they were granted full status. Oh, so we got some Outlaws coming in?
Oh, shit. In the United States, the Outlaws and the Bandidos, they had a long-standing friendship.
Uh-oh.
That alliance carried over to Scandinavia.
Makes sense.
The Norwegian Outlaws publicly pledged their support to the Bandidos in the ongoing war. Their allegiance made them a target almost immediately.
Oh, I bet.
November 1895, gunshots shattered the outside of the Outlaws' new clubhouse in Oslo.
Oh.
8 rounds were fired, 4 bullets tore through the windows, another 4 slammed into brick walls.
All right.
Nobody was hurt, but the warning unmistakable. Oslo, you're part of the battleground now, buddies.
Yeah. Damn. December 1995. Series of attacks that made clear this war was far from over. 6th December, Rebels member shot in the leg during a drive-by shooting between 2 cars on a motorway outside Helsingborg.
Jeez.
2 weeks later, less than 17th December, 2 leading members of the Bronx 95 MC at Bandidos Hang-Around Club. They were shot and wounded while riding in a car. They're from Trondheim, Norway. Police arrested 3 Angels members and charged them with attempted murder, but all 3 acquitted in December of 1996. Not enough evidence, man. You can arrest people all you want. You can indict a bologna sandwich.
Right. Well, that attack, it effectively ended the Bandidos' attempt to establish a foothold in Trondheim, which is a city that remains a Hells Angel stronghold to this day. Just when it seemed things couldn't get any worse, the violence finally crossed into Denmark.
Uh-oh.
December 26, 95, 2 Angels members were brutally beaten by a gang of between 5 and 10 Bandidos at the Stardust Discotheque in Copenhagen's Stroget district. According to witnesses, one Angel was beaten unconscious while another reportedly locked himself in the women's bathroom to escape.
Oh, I bet he did.
The biker war had officially gone Scandinavian-wide.
Ooh, I like it.
No sign of slowing down either.
By the winter, 96, biker war turned into something far more dangerous. Escalating campaign of bombs, bullets, all-out ambushes across Scandinavia. The year began with a series of coordinated strikes that left investigators scrambling because on the 15th of January 1996, an explosive device was hurled at the headquarters of the Screwdrivers MC, which is an Angels hang-around club in Hamar, Norway. Just 3 days later, January 18th, the Customizers Clubhouse in Oslo burnt down after being hit with a patrol bomb.
Or petrol. A gas bomb, huh? A little over a week later, the violence continued on. January 26th, gunfire erupted outside the Customizers Clubhouse in Allanabru, Oslo. 7 shots fired at a car carrying members of the Outlaws.
Okay.
One outlaw, a biker, he was hit in the arm.
Oh, no.
13 people connected to the Customizers were later charged in that case. Attacks, though, they were coming fast and furious. Family. By February 1st, a tattoo studio linked to the Angels in Oslo had been firebombed. Then came Finland.
Ooh, not Finland.
February 12th, 2 grenade attacks rocked the city of Helsinki.
Son of a bitch.
The first target was a restaurant in the Tapanila neighborhood. It was owned by a member of the Overkill MC. 2 people badly injured in the blast. Moments later, another explosion struck a motorcycle garage in the Hernasari district, also tied to the Overkill.
You criminals. They buy restaurants and put other people in harm.
Investigators would later learn that the grenade was actually thrown into the wrong building, a warehouse next door to the intended target.
Idiots.
Even so, the message was unmistakable. This war, it's entering a new, explosive, dangerous, deadly phase.
Right, son of a bitch. Wow. 27th of February, 1996.
27th of February.
Rebels MC, longtime Angels prospect in Sweden, officially patched in as full members.
Gotta do what you gotta do.
All right, Rebs. 2 days later, 19th February, hand grenade discovered beside the car of an Angels hang-around in Helsingborg.
Jeez.
Didn't detonate. Could have.
Yeah.
Then
Could have also saved money on car insurance.
Right. And then came March of 1996. 7 days that would turn the Nordic Biker War into a full-blown nightmare. Just over a week, 8 bikers shot in 4 different countries. 2 dead. Started on the 1st of March in Helsinki.
An Undertaker's member and a club prospect confronted Overkill bikers they'd spotted surveilling their clubhouse. This confrontation turned deadly. Both men were shot.
Oh, jeez.
The club's vice president, Jarko Kauko.
Why can't they just fight each other?
Right. He died from his injuries 2 weeks later, March 17th.
Oh.
That killing had changed everything in Finland. Within days, Overkill, who was the group responsible, they were officially promoted to become Angels' Finnish chapter.
Quinky dink.
Right, on March 23rd. And they moved into a new headquarters in Espoo.
Look at these guys.
Right.
Headquarters and shit.
2 Angels were convicted of Koko's murder. Kakos. Ilkka Ukkonen, he was sentenced to 12 and a half years. And Jussi Penttinen, he
There
was
goes their
sentenced to
fucking
6.
hockey careers.
Right. The bloodshed didn't stop there. March 5th, a gunfight broke out in central Helsingborg between Bandidos and Angels members driving in separate cars. Well, when the smoke cleared from that, a Bandidos prospect, he was seriously injured. 5 days later, the war went international.
Oh, no. Wow. Well, this is because on the 10th of March, 1996, members of both clubs, they just happened on themselves on the same flight, returning from events in Helsinki. When their planes landed, one in Copenhagen, the other in Oslo, the Angels were waiting. Dang. Copenhagen Airport. Gunmen opened fire on a bus carrying Bandidos members as they stepped off their flight. Witnesses described 8 to 10 Angels emerging from a car and unleashing a storm of bullets of fury. By the time it was over, 4 men hit. 2 full patch members, a prospect, and a hang-around. One of them, Uffe Lindenskov Larsen, the president of the Delby South Side chapter, killed instantly.
Damn.
Wow.
Well, meanwhile, across the border in Norway, another attack unfolded at Fornebu Airport in Oslo. There, the Bandidos Norway president, Lars Hans, he was shot and wounded in a separate ambush.
Oh, wow.
Police commander Jorgensen, he later called the Copenhagen attack a professional job, almost military. He described the difference between the two sides in stark terms. The Hells Angels are not like the Bandidos, who are kamikaze pilots.
Right.
The Angels measure everything. The pros, the cons, what's good, what's bad. The Bandidos recruited the worst of the worst, the scum. But that made them extremely strong. You got a bunch of people that are willing to just fucking die. So there was retaliation after retaliation.
Wow. Writer Sharon Marston, they put it bluntly. The Bandidos blasted away in indiscriminate attacks, while the Angels plotted with precision, striking to decapitate their rivals. When the trials were over, 6 Danish Angels and associates sentenced to a total of 53 years in prison. One was handed a life sentence for the Copenhagen airport shooting. In Norway, Torkjell Ersaker, they call him Rauda, president of the Angels Oslo chapter, received 3 years in prison for his role in the Fornebu airport attack. Just 3 years, huh?
These coordinated airport shootings marked the beginning of what police would later call the most violent phase of the Nordic Biker War. Yet, even then, after this, it wasn't over.
No, far from it, baby.
March 21st, 1996, Norwegian police discovered an unexploded hand grenade sitting quietly outside the Bandidos clubhouse in Drammen.
Oh, wow.
A silent reminder that in Scandinavia that spring, the war between the Angels and Bandidos wasn't just about revenge. It's about survival. You got to be surviving on these mean streets of Helsinki.
Wow.
Or wherever. Drammen.
Annihilate them. Early hours, April 11th, 1996. Hell's Angels compound, Haslarp, Sweden, came under fire once again. This time, attackers launched 2 rockets directly at the clubhouse.
Jeez.
The explosions caused massive structural damage. But, miraculously, as seems it happens all the time, no one inside was injured. Less than a week later, just after midnight, 17th of April, the Hells Angels South Chapter Clubhouse in Snoldedolf and Snoldelev, which is in Denmark, hit by an anti-tank missile. The blast destroyed the entire upper floor of the building, while 16 bikers were inside. Somehow, all 16 survived. Jeez. That's crazy.
Only hours after that assault, another missile was launched. This time it was targeting the Avengers MC clubhouse in Norra Sundby near Aalborg. The Avengers are Hells Angels support club. The projectile pierced the interior wall, but once again didn't detonate, leaving 4 members shaken but alive. April 26th, the conflict crossed even darker line. Morten Traban, they call him Wooden Leg, that's what that means. Christensen, the vice president of the Bandidos Southside chapter, He was serving time in Horse Rod State Prison when assailants broke into the prison. Jeez.
Oh, shit.
Cutting through a steel padlock on the perimeter fence.
Uh-oh.
They then threw a hand grenade into Christensen's cell and then opened fire with machine guns.
Nice.
Christensen, he was left in critical condition with severe shrapnel wounds and burns. How the hell didn't he die?
Oh. Wow. Well, the violence only escalated there even further. Because on the 7th of May, 1996, when 2 hand grenades were hurled from a passing vehicle into the home of Angels member Brian Paladin Jacobson, they call him Break. This happened in Braunschweig, Copenhagen. Jacobson lost a leg. 2 others are also wounded. A stolen car believed to have been used in the attack was later found abandoned, which was nearby the attack. Idiots. 2 days later, on the 9th of May, 2 female tourists driving past a customizer's clubhouse in Oslo became unintended victims when their car was riddled with bullets. One woman suffered a gunshot wound to the head. Survived, though, with minor injuries.
Damn, they were riding past the clubhouse and the old customizer's a little nervous.
Damn. 5 people connected to the customizers were later charged in that very attack. Damn, bitch got shot, and it said minor injuries.
Right.
Probably grazed her when they say shot in the head. Grazed
the
her.
other one or survived with minor injuries. Yeah, maybe, right. Well, then came a series of failed bombings in Finland. May 12th, a hand grenade was found unexploded outside the Hells Angels Espoo clubhouse.
Oh.
Less than a week later, May 18th, 2 intoxicated men attempted to attack the same clubhouse with grenades, only to blow themselves up in the process.
Oh, you idiots.
And both of them survived, but badly wounded. These guys can't even kill themselves.
Right. Son of a bitch.
The attack had been orchestrated by Marco Herzma, who we all know as the Undertaker's president. He was later sentenced to 9 months in prison for this.
Oh.
Herzma's arrest and the imprisonment of other high-ranking bikers had helped slow the violence in Finland, though fights continued inside the prisons. The last major public clash of the Finnish Biker War occurred June 29, 1996 at a music festival in Järvenpää, which was followed by a prison brawl the following month.
Oh, jeez.
These guys.
Sons of a bitch. In Denmark, the bloodshed continued. Because on the 10th of July, 1996, Jim Werner, he was a Bandidos member from Klodskov. Well, he just happened to discover that a half a kilogram explosive device was strapped beneath his van.
Jeez.
He had unknowingly been driving with the bomb for hours. It failed to detonate due to technical malfunction. A stroke of pure luck that likely saved his life.
I'd say so.
I wonder how he found it. Who just looks underneath their vehicles?
Well, you're in your biker war where they're doing explosives.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever get in a vehicle without looking. I don't think I'll ever get in a vehicle again.
Right. Walking everywhere.
All right. I won't even put shoes on because who knows? Just 5 days later, 15th of July, 4 Bandidos members, 2 from Drammen, and also 2 visiting from Helsingborg, got into a street brawl with members of the Customizer in downtown Oslo.
Downtown, huh?
Later that same very night, 4 Bandidos rode north of Midtjylland. They were ambushed. Jan Krog Jensen, they called him Face, a Helsingborg prospect, shot in the head, dead.
Damn.
Police determined the bullet came from a 7.65 millimeter semi-automatic pistol. Damn, that had been close range, dude. They don't shoot very far accurately. And the real target was likely Michael Garcia Olsen. They call him Lurch. The man Jensen was assigned to protect.
Oh, well, didn't protect. Well, I guess he protected him with his
Right,
life.
it worked out.
Olsen had once been the president of the Copenhagen Hells Angels before being expelled. He later defected to the Bandidos, becoming their European sergeant-at-arms. Following the killing, the Customizers officially became the Hells Angels Oslo chapter later that year. A club member accused of Jensen's murder. He was acquitted in 1998, and the case was officially closed in 2000.
Oh, really?
Just 4 days after Jensen's death, though, on July 19th, a drive-by shooting targeted a car occupied by a Customizers member in Oslo city center.
Oh.
No one was injured once again, but police charged 2 Bandidos associates with carrying out the attack, calling it they were trying to retaliate for Jensen's killing.
Oh, you know they got to do something, right? The violence reached a terrifying new level, 21st of July, 1996. The violence reached a terrifying new level, 21st of July, 1996. 6-kilogram remote control bomb hidden in a sports bag, placed outside the Angels' Norbro clubhouse in Copenhagen. The device failed to detonate because its radio trigger malfunctioned, sparing the lives of 4 bikers inside and countless nearby residents. The police later safely detonated the bomb, but they had fun doing that. Forensic technicians matched fingerprints on the bag to Jacob Anderson. They call him Hip Hop.
Hip hop. Hippity hop. A hip hop to the bang bang boogie.
He was a member of the Bandidos Southside chapter. He's sentenced to 3.5 years in prison for the following year. What? He was sentenced to 3.5 years in prison the next year. Took him that long to fucking do that?
Just 2 days after the failed Copenhagen bombing, the violence erupted once again. July 23rd, 96, Mikael Svensson, president of the Bandidos Sweden, he was shot in the leg while driving near the Angels headquarters in Haslar. His car riddled with bullets before he managed to escape. Bleeding and in pain, Svensson somehow made it to Helsingborg Hospital. And that's where police discovered him and they began piecing together yet another attempted assassination. Then, July 25th, the conflict took an even bolder turn. In a scene that stunned Danish authorities, between 2 and 4 armed men infiltrated Jyderup State Prison. Jeez. That's where Jorn Nielsen, who was a senior Hells Angels figure from the Copenhagen chapter, was serving time. The intruders opened fire with automatic weapon, unleashing more than 20 rounds into Nielsen's cell. He was hit 3 times, twice in the abdomen, once in the arm, but he survived. The attack marked one of the most brazen prison shootings in Danish history. Why were these guys just gaining access to prisons?
Right. Isn't that weird? Insane violence continued across the nation in the weeks that followed. 4th of August, Angels member badly wounded by gunfire. He was driving through Helsingborg. The very next day, civilian shot, injured, drive-by attack in Greve, just south of Copenhagen. Investigators later determined that the victim had no gang ties and had been likely mistaken for an Angels member who lived in the same building. 14th August, associated with Bandidos Southside chapter, ambushed, shot as he left the club's Haslev clubhouse. Even behind bars, the war didn't stop.
We've seen that already.
You expect it to be worse. That same month in Helsinki, a Hells Angels member assaulted by an unknown intruder inside a Finnish prison. What? A stark reminder that no one involved in the feud was safe, not even in custody.
These guys.
Wow.
By late August, both sides were firing shots almost weekly. August 27th, a Bandidos member in Stockholm narrowly escaped death when 16 bullets are fired into his car. Just the next day, August 28th, the vice president of the Hells Angels Helsingborg chapter, he was shot 3 times in the legs by 3 attackers who ambushed him outside his garage. The war finally reached Alberg in early September. September 2nd, 2 men in a drive-by shooting wounded a Hells Angels member as he was closing a shop owned by the Hells Angels Defense Fund. 2 days later, September 4th, another Alberg Hells Angel nearly escaped death when a bomb attached to his car detached and exploded in a parking lot.
Oh, no.
About 3 meters away, damaging several cars but injuring nobody. Good Lord, dude.
Wow. Finally, the police struck back.
Yeah, what are you guys doing?
10th of September, 1996, 12 Angel members arrested, charged with conspiracy to commit murder after coordinated police raids on 3 clubhouses. This happened in Haslarp, Zhorslov, and Malmo. But the arrest didn't slow the carnage. Never does. 2 days later, 12th of September, car bomb exploded outside Angels Clubhouse in Roskilde. This is Denmark. Devastating the surrounding residential area, but miraculously, no injuries. Good for these guys, all right?
Gunfire soon echoed again in Helsingborg. September 15th, witnesses reported a street shootout between Bandidos and Hells Angels members. When the gunfire stopped, police found a parked car riddled with bullet holes and 15 empty shell casings on the ground. The very next day, officers pulled over a stolen car driven by a Hells Angel and discovered an arsenal inside. He had a machine gun fitted with a silencer. I don't think that's going to do any good.
Right.
A shotgun and 2 grenades. Then came one of the most dramatic attacks of the entire Nordic Biker War. In the early hours of September 22nd, 1996, gunfire erupted again outside the Roskilde Hells Angels clubhouse.
Okay.
This time, the building was sprayed with more than 250 rounds from machine guns and rifles fired from a nearby football pitch.
Oh, shit.
It's a soccer field. 1 Hells Angels member was wounded, but dozens more could have been killed, but they weren't.
Investigators, they determined that the assault had been carried out by 2 snipers. One was armed with a hunting rifle, the other with a submachine gun. The precision, the scale, the fearlessness of the attack sent shockwaves all throughout Scandinavia. By September, late 1996, Both sides had escalated beyond simple gang rivalry. The Bandidos and the Angels were now fighting for a paramilitary-style conflict. It spilled into public streets, public prisons, and even public hospitals, leaving authorities scrambling to contain a war that showed no signs of slowing down. Wow.
Jeez. The autumn of 96 marked the most explosive phase yet of the Biker War. September 24th, a rocket was fired at the Hells Angels Haslarp Clubhouse, shattering the night sky and slamming into the compound. Just 4 days later, September 28th, the same target was attacked again, this time with precision. Investigators later discovered that the attackers had mounted a missile launcher to the second story of a nearby abandoned factory, rigged it to fire remotely using a string tied to the trigger, and pulled it from their getaway car. The improvised mechanism worked because the rocket sliced through power lines above a railway before smashing into the clubhouse.
Oh,
jeez, dude.
Damn. As if that wasn't enough, the assailants also hurled 2 hand grenades and a smoke grenade into the property. Both attacks they caused heavy structural damage, but miraculously, no one injured. A week later, barely, came another explosion. About 3 a.m., 3rd of October, 1996. A massive bomb detonated outside the Angels Clubhouse in Malmo, unleashing a blast so strong that it injured 4 people, shattered windows across several city blocks. 4 bikers inside building escaped unhurt, but 20 nearby families had to be evacuated as authorities feared a second device might be hidden in the debris.
Jeez, dude.
Wow.
By dawn, the damage was clear. The building was wrecked. Nearby streets were littered with glass and twisted metal. The local community had enough. The next day, roughly 100 residents took to the streets in a rare public demonstration against the Hells Angels.
Right.
Why not the Bandidos?
Right.
Protesting the violence that had turned their neighborhood into a war zone. Meanwhile, in Finland, the conflict evolved structurally. October 5th, 96, the Undertakers, who had long fought aside against the Bandidos, they were officially patched over as full Bandidos chapter.
You gotta do something, right?
They took the name of the Bandidos downtown Helsinki. But just 1 day later, October 6th, the war reached its bloody climax. That night, the Copenhagen Hells Angels hosted their annual Viking party at their Norraborough Clubhouse, which is a rowdy, invite-only event attended by about 150 people.
Right.
Shortly after 3 a.m., a Bandidos prospect armed with a Carl Gustaf rocket launcher climbed onto the roof of a nearby building and took aim. He fired it. The rocket-propelled grenade tore through the concrete wall of the clubhouse and exploded inside the main hall. This blast killed 2 people, Louise Lind Nielsen, who was a prospect, and Jane Krohn, who was a local woman and single mother who had accepted a friend's invitation to the party. I don't know. I gotta stay home tonight. Oh, come on, stop it. We'll have fun.
When's the last time you been out? Get a babysitter. Meet me at 8, and we'll have fun.
Jeez.
Okay, Jan? All right.
19 others wounded. Among them was Christian Sass Middelbo, who was the national president of Hells Angels Denmark. Good Lord.
Oh, my. The Popo officer stationed nearby, John Verlander.
He threw 100 and got out of it.
Right. Who had been monitoring the gathering, recalled the moment, and he said, people were screaming, walking around, wounded. I called for 2 ambulances. But when I walked farther inside, I told them to send everything they got.
Everything they got.
The attack shocked the entire nation. Krohn's death, the first civilian casualty of the Biker War, sparked mass outrage and pushed the Danish government into immediate action. Less than 2 weeks later, 15th October, the government passed an emergency bill known in the press as Rockerloven, or the Rocker Act, granting police new powers to evict motorcycle gangs from their fortified clubhouses.
Oh, damn time, guys. After that, police quickly moved on suspects. October 24th, Bandidos member Mickey Borgsford Larson was arrested after his fingerprints were found on a discarded machine gun linked to the attack. How do you just discard a machine gun?
Right.
He was charged with both the Copenhagen clubhouse bombing and the early attempted murder of Jorn Nielsen inside the Giderup prison. However, with insufficient evidence, Larson was released 4 months later.
What are you going to do?
The following year, March of 98, Bandidos prospects Niels Poulsen. He was convicted of carrying out the Viking party attack and sentenced to life in prison. Finally closing one of the most notorious cases of the war.
Oh, wow.
He's the only guy that got anything.
Right. But even as arrests were made, the violence rolled on. Devil's Night, 1996. Car bomb exploded outside the Angels Oslo clubhouse. The blast, so violent, shifted the building off its foundation.
Seems to me the Angels aren't doing many bombing things like the freaking Bandidos are, dude. It's all on the Hells Angels clubhouse.
And guess what? No one was hurt. Then in November, back in Finland, Marko Hirschma, president of the newly patched over Bandidos downtown Helsinki chapter, attacked, beaten inside Helsinki prison during a power struggle over the prison's drug trade. The biker war by then had seeped into every level of organized crime possible.
Wow.
The year closed with more bloodshed because on the 5th of December, 2 Bandido members pinned down by gunfire in a private yard in Valby, Copenhagen. One was wounded before they managed to escape. 4 days later, 9th of December, 1996, a member of the Bandidos Aalborg chapter shot 10 times while sitting in his car. Well, guess what? He survived.
Dude, it must be the cold or something up in there. These people are like indestructible.
They got like thick blood or something. I don't even know. The blood don't even bleed. My blood don't bleed.
Nobody makes me bleed my own blood.
I get shot and it's like instantly clots up.
Right. It's like freaking
I'm good.
Wolverine healed himself.
Right.
Well, by the end of 96, the biker war had claimed dozens of lives, injured hundreds more, and driven the Scandinavian government to take unprecedented legal action. Yet, despite public outrage and sweeping crackdowns, both sides, they didn't slow down at all. The rockets, the bombs, and the street shootings had become more than retaliation. They were part of a war that neither club was willing to lose.
Right, you don't want to lose war.
The year 97 began the same way 96 had ended, with blood on the asphalt and gunfire in the night. January 10th, 1997, Hells Angels member Kim Svensson, he was driving through Vejgaard, which is a suburb of Aalborg, when 3 bullets ripped through his car, striking and killing him instantly.
Right.
The attack sent shockwaves through Denmark's biker community once again. When Svensson was laid to rest days later, the funeral became a show of international unity and defiance. Around 500 Hells Angels members arrived from across Europe and the United States, roaring into Aalborg in long, thundering processions of chrome and leather.
Oh, shit. Wow. The police, they later charged several Bandido members with Svensson's murder. No solid evidence to tie them to the shooting. Prosecutors were forced to drop the case. Suspects released, and Svensson's killings remain unsolved to this very day that we're speaking to you right now. Just 3 days later, 13th of January, the war flared again. Member of the Bandidos Helsingborg chapter ambushed outside his home. He exchanged gunfire with 2 identified attackers who fled the scene in a car. Not long after, a Stockholm Angels member checked himself into a hospital with a gunshot wound. A possible sign of who had been in behind the attack. Well, we don't know. There's so much shit going on.
Right. The violence then soon spilled into Norway. January 22nd, Outlaws president Thor Holm Hansen, who was a prominent and outspoken figure in Scandinavian biker circles, he was shot along with his French bodyguard, Jean-Luc Verbert. And that's when members of the Hells Angels Support Club, the Untouchables, stormed the Outlaws' Oslo clubhouse in the Gronland district.
Okay.
Jeez, Outlaws, man.
Right.
Both men were hit. Hansen survived, but Verbert, he was left hemiplegic, paralyzed on one side for the rest of his life.
Oh.
I mean,
I guess, yeah. Right.
Police charged 5 members of the Untouchables, and in September of 98, one of them was sentenced to 3.5 years in prison for the attempted murder of Verbert. Then, early February 97, the war took on an almost surreal level of escalation. At a detention center in Køge, Denmark, someone fired an anti-tank missile at a Bandidos member's cell. Jeez.
Oh, wow.
The weapon struck, but once again, failed to explode, sparing the target's life.
Son of a bitch.
This doesn't bode well for Denmark and all these guys' military because your shit's not even working.
Right.
Jeez.
Wow.
Well, days later, another Bandidos member was shot at while walking to his car near a kindergarten on Amager,
Near a kindergarten?
Near a kindergarten on Amager.
What?
Barely escaping death.
No way.
Jeez, dude.
Wow. But the Angels, they weren't finished because on 18th February, another anti-tank missile was launched at a police cell block in Holbeck, where a jailed Bandino was being held. The explosion destroyed 2 cells, blasting concrete, steel into the corridor. But again, no one was hurt. Aftermath of that shit, the Danish police said, you know what? We're going to discover shit. And what they did discover, it looked like to be the beginnings of a pattern. Heavy military-grade weapons appearing again and again, often in populated areas. It was open warfare, with civilians just a wall away. That very same month, Oslo police narrowly averted another potential murder. They arrested 3 angels, 1 full member, 2 prospects, waiting inside of a car outside an apartment that had once belonged to Outlaws leader Thor Holm Hansen. The trio, they're armed and dressed in camo, later picked up after locals alerted the police. They were later acquitted of conspiracy to commit murder, but authorities believed their intent had been clear. You can believe anything you want.
Less than a month later, March 13th, a motorcycle shop in Elnabru, Oslo, where 2 Bandidos members worked, it was bombed. No one was injured once again, but the blast gutted the workshop and sent another message. No location, however small, was off limits. 2 men later charged in connection with the attack. Still, the explosions continued. March 22nd, yet another anti-tank grenade was fired at the Hells Angels clubhouse in Helsingborg.
Oh, man.
For the 3rd time that winter, the weapon failed to detonate. Another miracle that spared everybody inside. Man, holy crap.
You ain't kidding. By spring, the pattern of violence become routine. 1st of April, 1997. Angel associate sitting at a stoplight in Frederiksberg, which is in Copenhagen, shot through his car window with a 9mm pistol. Later that day, the police arrested 2 suspects, including Bandido member, for the shooting. The cycle of revenge barely paused, because a month later, a Bandido inmate at Vestra prison narrowly escaped an assassination attempt when prison authorities intercepted an electric razor rigged with 95 grams of explosives.
Oh, my goodness.
The device was cleverly disguised and wired to detonate when plugged in. Only the suspicion of a sharp-eyed guard prevented another murder. Wow. Somebody tipped him off.
Days later, May 7th, another Bandidos member was shot and wounded in Koj. May 12th, 3 Bandidos supporters were ambushed by gunfire while sitting in the car in Elberg, all leaving all 3 injured. By mid-97, the conflict had spread beyond clubhouses and city limits. It was starting to reach into homes, prisons, and public streets, but it was already been there. Rocket launchers, car bombs, and assassination attempts had turned Denmark, Norway, and Sweden into something closer to a battlefield than a peacetime region that we all know them.
Right.
And as for both sides, the Angels and the Bandidos, each attack now carried the same unspoken message. This war isn't even close to being over. By the summer of 97, the Scandinavian Biker War had already left a trail of bombings, rocket attacks, and near-daily shootings. But June 4th, it reached its most devastating and tragic moment yet. Acting under direct orders from Torkjell Elsiker, president of the Hells Angels Oslo chapter, members of the Screwdrivers MC, they loaded a stolen minivan with between 30 and 50 kilograms of explosives. They parked it outside the Bandidos clubhouse in Drammen, Norway.
Uh-oh. Well, the bomb happened to go off finally this time. It tore through the quiet street like a thunderclap, flattening the building, hurling debris across several blocks. The explosion was so powerful it shook houses miles away. Inside the Bandidos headquarters, the walls caved in and the structure was reduced to rubble in seconds. Outside, a passing motorist, 51-year-old Irene Astrid Bakevold, simply been driving by, murdered instantly when the blast ripped through her car. 22 others injured, some seriously. Investigators later determined that the intended target may have been Michael Garcia Olsen, a former Angels who had defected to the Bandidos the year before. The same man who had been the likely target in the shooting of Jan Krog Jensen. Olsen and 2 others barely escaped the burning ruins, fleeing the wreckage moments after the detonation.
The Drammen bombing was an act of pure escalation, a turning point so violent that even hardened bikers were shaken.
Wow.
Yet among the Hells Angels, the Screwdrivers MC were rewarded for their loyalty. They were soon patched over and granted full membership into the Angels soon afterwards. The investigation that followed was one of the most exhaustive in Norwegian criminal history.
Was it?
After 4.5 years, 7 men, including Elsiker himself, they were convicted for their roles in the bombing. But the war didn't stop immediately after that, though. Just 3 days later, June 7th, 97, 4 Bandidos members were gunned down outside a restaurant in Liselage, Denmark.
Wow.
One of them, Bjorn Gudmundsson, he was killed, and the other 3 were wounded. Police quickly traced the attack to a Hells Angels member named Von Schmidt. He was convicted of murder and 3 counts of attempted murder and sentenced to life in prison the following year.
Wow, not 2.5 months.
Right. The final recorded act of the Nordic Biker War came just 4 days later, June 11th, 1997. And that's when a Bandidos clubhouse in Dalby was hit with a hand grenade. Once again, nobody was killed. And then, just like that, the war was over.
The war is over. Simple. Well, not because one side had won, but because nobody was winning anymore.
Both losing.
Right. The deaths of 2 innocent women had turned the tide of public opinion completely against both clubs. Scandinavian police, Scandinavian public was furious. Law enforcement and politicians began tightening the screws. Newspapers ran headlines calling the bikers terrorists.
Basically.
Police raids became constant. Politicians demanded new laws. Inside the clubs, members were exhausted and broke. Years of war had drained their finances, destroyed businesses, and left many serving time or burying friends. As Christian Moeller of the Danish police later told authors Julian Schur and William Marston of Canada in 2006, he said, "We could see it in our investigations. They had no money left. They had used it all on this war. A lot of the bikers were older. They had children. They were not interested in having this war go on and on."
And that exhaustion and the financial collapse it caused became the final push toward peace. June 97, senior leaders from both the Bandidos and the Angels from America and Europe alike, they met on neutral ground in the United States, first in Colorado, then in Seattle. The Danish factions, who had been borne the brunt of the bloodshed, they were key to the negotiations. Even the Copenhagen police, while not participants, provided security and logistics to ensure the peace talks could happen safely. By late summer, the impossible happened. A treaty was signed. It defined exact territorial boundaries, down to specific bars, cafes, and nightclubs, so that both sides could coexist without encroaching on the other's turf. You know how long that's going to happen.
Right. 25th of September, 1997, Angels Denmark president, Bent Svein Nielsen, and Bandidos European president, Jim Tindon, appeared together on live TV. It was a surreal sight for viewers who had spent years seeing their clubs at war. Standing side by side, they announced an official end to hostilities, refusing to reveal the details but promising the violence was done. From that day forward, the Nordic Biker War was over. Guns fell silent. Bombing stopped. And the dust settled. The crime rate among motorcycle gangs slowly returned to pre-war levels. A faint echo of normalcy after 3 years of chaos, blood, and shattered streets.
And dreams.
Right.
When the gunfire finally stopped in the summer of 97, it wasn't just exhaustion or public outrage that ended the war either. Like we said, it was money. Behind the chaos and the bloodshed, the true motivation for peace was quietly rooted in business. By the mid-90s, Europe had changed. The creation of the European Union's common market had opened borders, removed trade barriers, and created a visa-free, customs-free zone of more than 376 million people. That's why you're in the shape you're in right now, Europe. An economic powerhouse worth over $11 trillion of U.S. money. That's it. To most, it was a political triumph, a new era of free movement and shared prosperity across the continent. But to the criminal underworld, it was something else entirely. It's an open highway for an organized crime now. 1997, Europol made the point bluntly in a press statement. He said some of the greatest beneficiaries of a single market have been organized crime, and that included the biker clubs.
Ooh, I bet it did. Sons of bitches, both Bandidos and Angels had long-term visions that stretched far beyond Scandinavia. Their American leadership saw the biker war with its bombs, its murders, police crackdowns, not just as bad publicity, bad business. Every bomb meant more surveillance. Every murder meant more border checks. Every headline made expansion harder. So when peace finally came, both clubs turned their focus south to the European mainland, where opportunity awaited. Let's go fuck up these guys.
Soon after, the true Scandinavian members of both the Angels and Bandidos began relocating to new chapters in Spain and Italy. They're countries that offered both geographic advantage and laxer oversight. The Angels in particular, they were aggressive about their move into Spain. They saw it as the golden gateway to Europe, the final link in a major smuggling route that brought marijuana from Morocco into the continent. Whoever controlled the Spanish pipeline would control the flow of hashish through the southern Europe and beyond. And they intended to control it. At the same time, the booming Spanish real estate market, especially along the Costa del Sol, became a money laundering paradise. Villas, condos, and seaside properties were bought and sold through front companies, washing drug profits clean under the Mediterranean sun.
Oh, wow.
Both the Angels and the Bandidos, they invested heavily, not just in property, but in legitimacy. They opened legal businesses, purchased bars and garages, and quietly wove their criminal enterprises into Europe's economic fabric. The Biker War had shown them that bullets and bombs could only get them so far. But in the new Europe, money and mobility, that's the real weapons. That's the real weapons.
Wow. In the wake of the Nordic Biker War, law enforcement across Scandinavia finally realized what they were dealing with. It wasn't just a turf dispute between rival motorcycle clubs. It was a transnational criminal network, armed to the teeth and operating with military precision. To respond, the governments of Denmark, Finland, Norway, and Sweden formed a joint task force, linking their efforts with the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration and the ATF. They're like, hey, guys, can you help us out? What you guys find when you track the Angels and Bandidos on American soil? You guys been doing that for decades.
Help us out.
Give us a little something. Well, in Denmark, where the violence had been the fiercest, a special unit was created. It brought together homicide investigators from the National Police, Copenhagen's Homicide Department, elite detectives from Aarhus, Odense, and Roskilde. Their mission was clear. Find the killers, dismantle the networks, and make sure that this never happens again. But the war had also reshaped public opinion, and the political backlash was fierce because they don't. Whoa! From here on out, they're not seeing the biker gang as this. Oh, leave them alone, you know. No, they're like these fuckers.
Messing up everything. Well, in Copenhagen, politicians faced mounting pressure to take control. The Danish parliament doubled the maximum sentence for illegal weapons possession to 4 years in prison, and granted police sweeping new powers.
Right.
They're now allowed to wiretap. They got search warrants when occupants were away instead of being home. I don't know why that would be a thing.
Right.
And even the authority to seize cash or property if the suspect couldn't prove it was obtained legally. There you go, buds. Then, like we mentioned earlier, came the rocker lovin'. Passed October 15, 1996, it gave police the legal right to evict biker gangs from their headquarters. For years, these motorcycle clubs had taken advantage of a quirky Danish policy that subsidized clubhouses for special interest groups with as few as 5 members. So, on paper, it was about supporting community clubs, but in practice, it meant biker fortresses were being funded by the government. Oh, geez. Often sitting right in the middle of a quiet residential neighborhood.
Right.
Now that loophole, gone. Over the next 2 years, the crackdown was relentless. 138 people were convicted for crimes tied to the 96-97 phase of the conflict, sentenced to a combined 240 years in prison. Several received life sentences for murder and attempted murder as well.
Denmark's prisons had to adapt to this new reality, even building special wings inside Vredlåsele and Horsens state prisons just to house biker gang members. The last man sentenced for crimes from the war wouldn't walk free until December 2015, almost 20 years later. In the end, the war left 11 dead, 6 Bandidos, 3 Angels, 2 civilians, along with 74 attempted killings and 96 wounded. Of those, 40 were Angels, 34 Bandidos, 22 were either police officers or innocent bystanders. Investigators, they later tallied more than 400 violent incidents between 94 and 97. Some victims simply vanished. Disappearances that were almost certainly murders.
Yeah.
Given the grenades, automatic weapons, rocket launchers, author Julian Schur would later write that it was miraculous more people weren't murdered. But what shocked...
Yeah, we've seen all the shit that didn't detonate or miraculously just surviving 250 rounds.
Right. But what shocked authorities most was what came next.
That's because neither side was destroyed. Neither side disappeared. If anything, both the Angels and the Bandidos, they came out of the war stronger. By 2005, the Angels had expanded from 6 to 8 chapters in Denmark, with about 168 full patch members, plus hundreds more in puppet clubs. In Sweden, they had 6 chapters and 80 members. In Norway and Finland, they had 9 chapters combined. Bandidos weren't far behind either.
Uh-oh.
So by 2005, they had 13 Danish chapters with 171 members.
Really?
4 chapters in Sweden, multiple probationary chapters across Norway and Finland. They also commanded 350 members through their own network of feeder clubs.
Oh, wow.
And just as they had planned, both organizations turned south, expanding aggressively into Spain, Italy, and Eastern Europe. And from there, they reached even farther.
Wow, that's because the Scandinavian Bandidos in particular set their sights on Thailand.
Thailand!
The country that offered everything they wanted.
Boy girls.
Sunshine.
Girl boys.
Everything they wanted. They wanted sunshine. They wanted corruption. They wanted cheap property and minimal police.
Yeah, I'm sure you can pay out the Thailand police pretty good.
By the mid-2000s, there were 4 Bandido chapters in Thailand, all led by Danish presidents. As one Danish commander told authors Schur and Marston, it's all that they want.
Is another baby.
There's power, corruption, females, air quote, nice climate, no police to hamper them.
All right.
Wow. Meanwhile, many Scandinavian angels established a similar presence in South Africa. They invested in property.
That's rough.
Used the region as the base of operation for smuggling and laundering money. By the early 2000s, what had begun as a regional biker feud had evolved to a global criminal strategy.
The American biker clubs by this time had rationalized Europe's underworld, merging street punks, football hooligans, and local gangs into disciplined, hierarchical organizations that rivaled the Italian mafia and the Asian triads. They gave Europe's criminal underclass something they had never had before. Structure, purpose, status. The biker war may have ended on paper in 1997, but its legacy didn't fade.
Right.
It changed how Europe fought organized crime. It showed the world that even amid chaos, the underworld was learning how to think like an army and move like a corporation.
Oh, wow.
After the smoke cleared from the biker war, Scandinavia wasn't interested in giving the Hells Angels or the Bandidos a chance to rebuild in peace, though. In Denmark and Norway, the Popos, they stayed on the offensive, determined not to let another war like that happen again.
Ever.
Their strategy was pretty simple. Constant pressure. By 2004, the Danish National Police released a staggering statistic. 1,086 members of the Angels and Bandidos in Denmark had criminal records. That meant 1 out of every 2 bikers in the country had a conviction on file.
Really?
Commander Jorgensen, who had fought through the height of the biker war, he put it bluntly in an interview with the journalist Schur and Marsden. The whole philosophy here has been that after the biker war ended, we would not allow ourselves to relax and let them share in their criminal activity. Denmark's police took that mantra seriously. Coordinated raids, intelligence sharing, and the dismantling of biker-friendly establishments became routine. In Norway, the approach was pretty much the same. Police aggressively tracked biker finances, weapons caches, and recruitment efforts, making life increasingly difficult for the clubs to operate in the open.
Okay.
But across the border in Sweden, things looked very different.
Well, despite suffering their own share of violence during the Nordic Biker War, Swedish law enforcement had developed a reputation for being cautious, even hesitant, when it came to confronting the bikers. Over the years, Swedish officers became the targets of brutal intimidation campaigns. In 1999, an officer was blinded for life when a bomb planted in his car exploded. A year later, another officer's car was blown up in his own driveway. 2002, a third policeman discovered a bomb wired to his front door.
Jeez.
An attack that meant to kill him.
It's not just him.
And it sent a message to every officer who dared to investigate. Like, don't even fucking think about it. One Swedish policeman, speaking anonymously to Schur and Madston, admitted, because all the threats against the police officers, I think policemen close their eyes. They don't want to see. They're afraid. Fear had become a weapon as powerful as any grenade or a gun. By the early 2010s, the Nordic biker scene had been transformed from open warfare to a tense but calculated coexistence. The Bandidos and the Angels, once locked in a violent struggle for dominance, left cities shaken, streets littered with wreckage of bombings. They matured into sprawling international networks. They adapted to the new era of organized crime. Less bloodshed.
Less overt bloodshed. Let's not kill openly into the freaking public.
Right.
Let's do things behind the scene a little bit. Let's keep it a little low.
Right. More control through alliances and the creation of a satellite gangs to do the dirty work for them. Yet, the uneasy peace that followed the so-called end of the Biker Wars was fragile. Each club watched the other carefully, maintaining a balance that could easily tip with a single slight. A rogue member, an encroachment on forbidden territory, anything. Just waiting for something.
10-yard penalty. Today, the legacy of the Nordic Biker War is one of paradox. On the surface, it's a cautionary tale of criminal empires run amok, of how pride, power, and violence can spiral into public crisis. But beneath it, it's also the story of evolution within the underworld. How groups once seen as chaotic and reactionary learn to operate like corporations with structure, discipline, and international reach. The scars of the conflict, both literal and social, they still mark Denmark, Norway, Sweden, and Finland. You had to start with Denmark first, huh?
Right.
And though the roar of the Harley engines no longer signals open war, the echoes of those years remain a reminder that even peace among outlaws, it's rarely permanent.
Rarely. Wow.
Good Lord, guys. That was, it was just total nonstop action. TNA.
Ain't kidding.
Wow. That's the Nordic Biker War.
I mean, just
Indiscriminate.
right.
Just firing rocket launchers. And even the Americans weren't doing all that shit.
Right.
Holy moly.
These guys just didn't care. They're so sloppy.
Right. Lucky more people weren't. There could have been hundreds of people killed
Hundreds.
for this shit. But
Insane.
oh, good Lord. Well, that's going to do the Nordic Biker War next month's Bandidos episode. We're going to take a look at some crimes around the United States of America. Finally, we get to America where we're supposed to be doing.
All right.
Yeah, but next week we'll be back for another remastered episode, which we're in the thick of things on our Public Enemy #1 era, I guess you could say. It's going to be John Dillinger.
Oh.
Everybody knows John Dillinger.
Yeah.
The very first Public Enemy #1. So we'll have him, and then we'll round out the month once again with some more serial killing. So give us a like, share, switch your friends, comment, subscribe, leave a review, and we'll see you next week for more Battles of the American. No, well, we'll see you sometime next week for if you guys Battles of the American Civil War. We do another podcast on that, but we'll see you next week for more Outlaws and Gunslingers. We have the month of Michigan this week.
Bang.